What is up, guys? Today we're going to be talking about Cha-Ching, The Black Company by Glen Cook. So for those that are wondering, what the hell? Didn't you already cover that book? Yes, I did. But since we're doing the read-along now, I just kind of feel like it's time for me to do this review kind of over again. When I did my original one, man, the production value sucks because it was when I first started my channel. I also think that I've grown a bit as a reviewer. So, yeah, we're just, armored up, back in the saddle again. Black Company. Yeah, guys. So, let's get into it. The Black Company is a dark military fantasy that basically tells the story of this group of mercenaries known as the Black Company. Now, when we start off, we are meeting the Black Company, and they are basically commissioned by a guy known as the Syndic, and the Syndic is who runs the show here in the city of Beryl. Now, when we are first showing up, Beryl is about to implode on itself. Like riots and all kinds of bad shit are about to break out, and we're seeing the Black Company having to deal with this fallout. You know what I mean? They work for the Syndic, so they have to basically deal with all these riots and shit. And we're starting to understand that the Black Company, they're not bad guys, but they don't have a problem necessarily working for the bad guy. Now, we will watch as a string of events happens, which basically cause the Black Company to pull their contract, which is something that's, they're really not known for. Like I said, the Black Company might do some dastardly shit, but they still have some measure of honor, and, keeping a contract is very important to them. But nonetheless, we will find the Black Company canceling their commission and signing a new contract with an even more sinister boss. Now that the Black Company has found themselves under the employment of the lady, what plays out from here is just really a wild ride. We will be introduced to the 10 that were taken, and these are some just crazy oddball wizards that are a lot of fun to meet, one at a time. We'll also be introduced to the rebel army, and this is very interesting because you think almost right out the gate that the rebel army are the good guys, but how all this stuff plays out, and that the lady is not good, but realistically, both sides have a lot of bad behavior, and it's really tough to say that one of them is good and one of them is not. Okay, so I'm going to keep the narrative pretty short since I'm going to be diving into all 10 books. So the first thing I really want to get into is Glen Cook's writing style, because I think this is something that is going to frustrate today's reader. One thing being just the pace that Glen Cook sets with his style, and it's a breakneck pace. It's a hit the ground running pace, and it will leave your ass behind if you're, you know what I mean? If you're not paying attention, or if you're not just trying to buckle down and get through it. It will frustrate you because, like I said, you are going to be jumping from one thing to another, and you might not even have gotten enough context on the stuff that you were just dealing with. You also might gloss over an entire battle and just end up in a situation where people are it's downtime and they're playing Tonk, this card game. So you're kind of well, what the fuck happened? How did we get here? There's a lot of things that just happen all of a sudden. It's very jarring, and it won't hold your hand. So almost assuredly, this is one of the main frustrations of the book. It's just very, very fast, and it doesn't hold your hand. So you're not necessarily, you don't know, is this important? Should I be really digging into this little chunk right now? Or is it going to be forgotten about, in the next chapter? And there is stuff like that. So you will have to kind of pay attention, and you also will kind of have to learn to let go of some things as you push forward and progress through the story. The next thing I want to talk about is surely another thing that could frustrate today's reader. And that is going to be that there's no way around it, guys. This thing was written in the 80s. There's going to be some dated feelings while reading this. There's just, people don't write fantasy like this anymore. There are just over-the-top fantastical elements throughout this book. I found it very imaginative, but I do know that there are people that are just going to find it dated. And it's not just with the fantastical elements, it's also about how the story is delivered. We just don't write fantasy so much like this anymore. A perfect example of this kind of content that I'm talking about is there are flying carpets in this story. And I'll tell you, just as a reader, I mean, like when I first came across this, I was kind of like, oh my God, flying carpets, magic carpets, Aladdin is what I'm starting, think of. And it was a little awkward at first, and it certainly gave off that dated feel. But I want to let you guys know right now, there's probably nobody on this planet that's more team flying carpet today than this guy. And it's because of this book. Once, yes, it was a little awkward at first, a little dated feely, but the way the story kind of pushes in and the way I could just envision these guys fucking zooming in on flying carpets, dropping magic, it is fucking cool. Another example of some of this kind of dated feeling kind of stuff, most assuredly will be found in the names of the characters. All of these guys got some ridiculous ass names. But I will say this, Glen Cook actually has a reason for these crazy names. So, when you're first pushing through the story, you're like, God damn, these are horrible. They're the most cheesy, like cartoonish names. And then you get the reason why, and you're like, oh, that's actually pretty dope now, and it doesn't feel like some stupid cartoonish thing. It seems super legit, and I'm way into it now. One of the last things I want to touch on, just as far as maybe something that might catch people, in that dated feeling way. It will also just be some of the behavior, especially when it comes to the wizards of the Black Company, because these guys are just pranksters. They're always doing some kind of prankster magic to one another, and these displays of magic will certainly remind you of something that, is an older style. Like the imagery is like of the older magic. And it just, these pranks are filled with levity. So you have a dark military fantasy, tale that's going on. So sometimes maybe these practical jokes and this levity might feel out of place to some, but I do think that there are also going to be those readers that are really enjoying these pranks and this levity to the story, because there's also a lot of darkness here. You know what I mean? You're talking about worlds at war. People are dying every day. There's rape and all kinds of stuff happening in this world. It's not exactly a good time. So maybe every once in a while, a good, practical joke can lighten the mood and make the reader feel a little bit more welcome here in a dark world. So I know it sounds like I'm just pointing fingers and kind of like showing you all the bad stuff about the book, but I want you to know I love the book. I just also understand this is probably the toughest book out of the whole series to get into, and just so happens to be the first book. But I also want to let you guys know that this thing is chocked full of just great stuff. It's very imaginative, like I said earlier. And I want to say the things that I just personally loved so much, that stuck out to me, were a lot of these characters, especially the 10 that were taken. These are the wizards that are under the employment of the lady, and they are crazy. They have contrasting personalities and just nutty magic, and they're dark characters, but they're also very mysterious and intriguing, and just a lot of fun to read about, man. You just want to know more about them, especially a character like Soul Catcher. Soul Catcher gets introduced to the reader very early in the story, but we don't know enough about Soul Catcher, and we're not gonna get it either, because Soul Catcher is designed to be kind of confusing and a mystery. When Soul Catcher speaks, their voice changes in mid-sentence, so you might get a female and a male voice, 2 or 3, 4 different people talking all within a sentence. So it makes it, this is so much fun to imagine. But it also, like I said, it creates a little bit of mystery and intrigue. Another thing I was really impressed with in the book was just Cook's ability to capture an atmospheric feel. There is a part in the book very early on where the Black Company is basically on a beast hunt in closed quarters, and Cook does an amazing job of capturing that confined feeling. And with adding that creepy tension, because we know we're hunting a supernatural creature in tight quarters, I felt nervous and kind of sweaty and just oh shit, I could feel the tension and the horror building in my spine. Cook did an amazing job of that, as well as I think he does a really good job of painting these just brutal battlefields, like after war. There's a great description in here about like after deathly like battle magic has been used, and it just talks about like these corpses looking like wax sculptures and whatnot. There's just some really beautiful writing in here that really can take the reader and pull you into the moment and just the best way. So as far as my 2 cents for the slow and the struggling, I do think that the Black Company poses some problems, but not any problems that are so big that you will never be able to get over them. This is not a book that's like a 6-7 foot hurdle for you to jump over. It's just a book that you need to pay a little attention to. Just know that the pace is going to be rather fast and you're going to be kind of jumping through a lot of stuff right out the gate. But you just need to buckle down. Buckle down a little bit more than what you're used to, because books were once written a little bit different than they are today. But this is definitely a book and a series that's worth getting into. It's worth your time. There's a reason why there's people still shouting about the Black Company, decades later, okay? These books are definitely worth your time. Just know that they do also pose a little frustration. They are dark. They're adult themed. So as long as these things don't bother you and you're on board with the good stuff, it's worth your time. All right, guys. As always, thanks for spending some time down here at the channel. And to Glen Cook, akadoosh. I salute you, sir. And I'm a firm believer in that once you're in the Black Company, there's only one way out. Feet first. So, guys, it is not too late to join us for this Black Company read-along. We are going to be covering all 10 books, 1 book a month. Gives you plenty of time to get through, get in, get out, and get on to the other one, okay? So come join us. I'll have a link for the Discord in the description. As well as I would like to point you guys towards a couple other reviews for this book, because, I always say don't take my word for it, or just not only my word for it. Plus, these guys have amazing reviews for this book. And that's going to be Alan from the Library of Allenxandria and my buddy John from Hey Y'all Listen Up. Those two guys probably have the best Black Company book reviews out there. Almost made me like, why am I even doing a Black Company review? Just go watch John and Alan's. Yeah, well, you know what? I just wanted to waste your time, all right? So if you're new, please like and subscribe. Helps me grow the channel, all right? You know what time it is. Bye.